Welcome to the Hair Notes podcast. I am your host, Maxine Green, owner and master stylist of Curly Dimension Salon. This podcast was created intentionally to assist you on your natural hair journey. Each week we will cover topics on products, topics that you have questions about, that you need clarity about. So if you're looking for a space and a place to get some clarification on what's the next step in your natural hair journey, this is the place for you. Every week, a new episode will drop. So grab a notepad and a pen and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back into another episode of the Hair Notes podcast. I'm your host, Maxine Green. And on today's episode, I want to talk to you about why so many curly girls are reverting back to the creamy crack or reverting back to getting a relaxer. So here's a couple of reasons why that I think that so many curly girls are transitioning back or they are over it, right? The reason one that I really think a lot of curly girls are going back is not enough education on how to properly care, manage, and maintain their naturally curly hair. Reason two, they have used a plethora of products, including ones that family and friends or television or YouTubers have encouraged or showcased or used on their own hair. And so they decided to try it and it didn't work. So it's that finding out an even balance or a balance to see what works for them, right? Reason three is they can't find a good curly hair stylist that will help them manage their hair. So I want to go back in and I want to dissect these three top reasons. There are so many other reasons, but I think those are the three top reasons that I find that most curly girls are really wanting to or really going back to creamy crack or really going back to a relaxer after being natural for maybe 6 months to a year or even 5 years. The other main reason I also think that most curly girls want to go back is because there's so many hairstyles that only can it be achieved with having relaxed hair, right? That will look polished and will look maintained or give that polished look if they have a relaxer. So top reason, proper education on how to maintain, right? And I think with that, I want to couple that with finding the right hair stylist or finding the right curly hair specialist that can guide them on what to do to manage and to care for their natural hair. So let's say you've already big chopped and you are now in the space of what's the next step. The next step for you should be finding a hair specialist or curly hair specialist that can guide you on how to properly maintain your natural curly hair. They're few and far between, I understand, and it depends on where you live and demographics. They can be even more, it can be even more cumbersome trying to find somebody to help you manage your curly hair. But here's one thing I want you to consider if your struggles are that of finding a hairstylist. Figure out what works for your particular texture, right? Don't use multiple products. Figure out what works. And now this is easier said than done for sure, and it will take some time. However, I do believe that when you have or when you put in a little time and effort, the results are so much more rewarding than you giving up and throwing in the towel. And it's so easy for us to say, or it's so easy for me to say to you, figure out what works. But then how do you start that process? And what does that look like? So to figure out what works, the first thing you have to understand is what your texture is or what your curl pattern is. And once you do that, a quick way to do it is kind of like compare your curl pattern to that of your siblings, if you have any, to that of your sister friends within your circle, to that of people that you've seen or in contact with or close friends or relatives that are also on the transition and journey, are also natural. Compare your curl pattern to theirs. look for a couple of things. You want to look for density of your hair in comparison to theirs. You want to look for the tightness of the curl, how long, how big, how tightly wounded is your curls. And you also want to look for hydration level. A great way to determine hydration level, if your hair absorbs too much water, or if your hair is absorbing the water, really look at how their hair absorbs product or water versus how your hair absorbs product and or water. That is a great indication of what your porosity level will be and what the moisture level in your hair will be, right? So the next thing, and that's really going to help you with manage. The next thing is really understanding, okay, which product do I use? When you now are aware of what your texture and your curl pattern and the hydration level of your hair is, once you understand those factors, you can now determine what product to use. I have talked about this for so long. I've spoken in previous episodes of the Hair Notes podcast that you can catch those previous episodes where we talked about products and what works and what doesn't work. And so you can go back and kind of reference those along with this episode to kind of guide you on your journey or to assist you. Even if this is not for you, it may be for your daughter. It may be for a relative that you know that is struggling with their hair. And the easiest route or the only way out is to essentially revert back to what is easiest, right? Or what comes more naturally easy to you or to them. So once you understand what the texture looks like, the hydration level looks like, what your curls will do, and how will products really work for you, and what products really work for you, then the maintenance of that becomes so much easy and so simplified. Then you can really double down and find your core products. And for that, your core product should be your shampoo, a good moisturizing shampoo, a good hydrating shampoo, a good hydrating conditioner, a good leave-in, and a styler, and a curl refresher or a second-day hair refresher. I can give you some recommendations, but those are your core, right? And that's where you kind of want to stick. Everything is pretty simple. I don't believe in arming a curly girl or giving a curly girl too many product choices. I want to keep it as simple as possible because I do believe in the simpler the routine is for her, depending on lifestyle, it will make life so much easier for her. Then the last step is, or the last thing that I see, one of the last reasons or the reason why I see so many curly girls reverting back to a relaxer is not finding a good stylist. It's not finding a good curly hair specialist that can really help them, right? It is one thing to say that you do natural hair, but it's a complete opposite to say that I specialize in curly hair, right? Because natural hair encompasses so many hairstyles. It encompasses so much. But to say that you specialize in curly hair, that's completely different. When you say you specialize, or a curly hair specialist is someone who really knows and understands what your curls will do, how it would function based on product choice, what your porosity level is, all right? And, okay, so you can't do this style. And if you do a style, how the end result will look for you. That's what a curly hair specialist should be able to decipher for you, should be able to help navigate this journey for you, right? The other thing that I see that most curly girls are reverting back to relaxers is they want a style. And I know that oftentimes we like finger waves, or we want the style that gives us a nice polished, smooth finger wave look. And the only way to achieve that is to ultimately get a relaxer, because it's going to give you a smoother finish as opposed to curly hair. Because curly hair, one, is going to curl up when it has gel or any kind of water-based product in there, right? And or you can do a finger wave style when the hair is pressed out or silk out. But then that kind of begs to differ. Like, why would I silk out my hair just to get a hairstyle? Because then you run into issues of, am I putting too much heat? And then will I get heat damage? So there's so many variables that can make you not want to silk out your hair and then ultimately just go with a relaxer just to kind of give you the look. But let's say that you now get the relaxer and you now have this polished look. Now what? 3 months later, are you still going to be in love with this hairstyle? 4 months later, will your hair still look and feel healthy? 6 months later, are you okay with breakage or damage? And that happens when your hair is not being taken care of. Yes, we all can agree that natural curly hair takes time and it takes work, and it's not something that is easily adjusted, right? It takes a lot of time. And I will be the first one to say, as a curly girl, the struggle is so real, right? It's a real struggle for us. And it's really it's a struggle because we can't find the right products, right? We can't find a good hairstylist, right? We don't know what to do. And so we throw in the towel because it just seems so much easy. I want to go back to what was convenient. I want to go back to what is simple and makes my life easier. But here's what I would beg to differ for you. And I really want you to think about, yes, it makes life easier for you. And yes, it seems simple, but the overall health of your hair, is that worth it? Is it really worth it? So let me say this, guys. I am not knocking anyone who wears a relaxer. This is not about that. This is about the curly girls who feel like they have no other option or feel like they have no other choice but to revert back to a relaxer simply because there's no great guidance for them, or and they don't have the knowledge or the understanding on what to do to maintain their natural curly hair. And there's no one in there within a 10-mile radius of them or a 6-mile radius of them, right? So I often, for myself, as a curly hair specialist who work on curly girls day in and day out, it's something that I love doing. I'm a curly girl myself, and I have a 20-year-old daughter who's never had a relaxer. So for me, understanding what that looks like and the struggle of a curly girl, I completely empathize. I really do. But I really want to say this from just a consumer perspective as opposed to the stylist perspective. It's easier said than done. I get it. And I totally agree. It's easier said than done. And oftentimes it's a lot more harder to maintain and manage curly hair than it is a relaxed hair. And no one will disagree, right? I'll be the first to tell you, I don't disagree with you. However, I do feel that curly hair is a lot more forgiving, and it's a lot more, you're able to manage it a lot more once you figure out what your product usage looks like, what your product choices look like. The manageability becomes a lot more easier for you once you figure those things out. Now it comes with time, yeah? So, and I get it. We all want this instant gratification of this instant look, right? That we see on magazines and we see on the internet. But here's the thing, y'all. That comes with time. No hairstyle that you see on the internet or in the magazines just kind of happened by haphazard, right? It happens because their hair was either trained or was created using a thermal iron and or a hot comb. However, the hair was, whatever tool was used to create that hairstyle, you can bet or almost guarantee that in 2 days or 3 days or a week or whatever the case may be, the hair won't look that way, right? unless it's in its natural state. The thing with curly hair that I love so much is that not only is it forgiving, but longevity of a hairstyle looks amazing. And it's so simple, and it makes life easy for a busy soccer mom, for a busy professional, for the busy mom with toddlers who can't afford or who can't ultimately take the time to be doing their hair every day or every other day. And now we can argue, or we can agree to disagree, that if you have a relaxer, then all you need to do is sleek it down and you can go, right? But I like versatility. If you're anything like me, I love my hair to have I love to be able to do different things. I love versatility. As a natural curly girl, I can wear straight hair. I can wear my hair curly. I can do a flat twist. I can do a 2-strand twist. I can do a rod set. I can put my hair in braids if I choose to, just to give my hair a break. The option to wear your hair however you choose, it's totally yours, and it's totally up to you. And I wholeheartedly agree that it's your decision. It's your choice. What I'm saying to you is, make sure that that decision that you're making to return back to a relaxer is one that you are wholeheartedly comfortable with and you are going to own, right? I've had so many clients or potential clients who come in, and whether they're new clients, ultimately they're new clients, right? Because my old clients or my seasoned veterans of Curly Dimension Salon, they all know, like, their hair are well maintained, their curls are well maintained. So the thought or the idea of going back to relaxers has never crossed their mind. Yes, do they ask me for a style that creates or that looks polished, that looks a little bit more polished, such as a finger wave? Yes, I get those questions all the time. But I explain to them, hey, you can get this. There are 2 ways for you to get this. You can get this given a relaxer. I can give you a relaxer to give you that look. But if you only want this hairstyle just for the night or just for a weekend or just to see how it will look on you, I will say kind of rethink that. Really think about it before you make that decision. And or if you only want this hairstyle because you're tired and you're over it, then I always ask the client, are you sure? Be mindful. And if you're sure, then here's the other option. We can flat iron your hair and we can do soft finger waves that still looks flawless, that still looks polished. Your curls will be intact. You can always revert back to curly hair. Now, the only difference between a natural finger wave and a relaxed finger wave is the longevity of the style. That's the only difference, right? So curly girls who are at that precipice or at that point or at the place of, my God, I'm tired, or I no longer want to do this. I've had enough. This is it. I understand completely, right? I totally get it. And I can tell you, like, I know what you feel. I empathize. But I really want you to consider what your options are. Consider what the consequences of going back to a relaxer. How healthy is your hair going to be? Not saying that you won't take care of it while it's in a relaxed state, but I really want you to think about how healthy my hair will be. And are you going to have remorse in 3 to 6 months? Or even a month, or even 2 months, because I've also seen that, right? The curly girl who, I just want this hairstyle as a temporary fix. This is what I feel. They're so adamant about wearing their hair in a polished finger wave because that's what they see, right? It's beautiful. It's flawless. It gives you this very Renaissance kind of look. And I love that. I love that era. I love the look of it. But how long are you going to maintain this? How long will you keep it? How will you maintain it? And are you willing to maintain it? Right? So that's the thing I want to ask you. Are you going to maintain this hairstyle? Are you going to maintain your hair? Are you okay with your hair being straight? Or are you going to, I want a big chop in like 3 months. This was a mistake. So those are things that you need to really think about before you make that decision. I know that we are in a social media society, and social media gives us instant gratification. So with that being said, I know it's not an easy task. I know that for sure it's may unnecessarily be an easy decision for you. But I do want you to consider, what are your options going forward? If this is something that you are adamant about, that you are for sure that you can't, you're okay, you're done. I've tried it. I've been there. I've did that. I'd give it a great go. Now I'm done. And you want to revert back to a relaxer, then for sure, by all means, go ahead. My only thing is, I want you to make sure that you're taking care of your hair. Use right shampoos and conditioners, right? Because remember, relaxers have lye in them. So you don't want your hair breaking. So make sure your shampoos and conditioners are sulfate free and mineral oil free. Too much, I don't want you to have too much buildup, right? So definitely take your time to understand what the decision that you're making, how will that affect your hair going forward, right? Let me also say this. Relaxed hair is not for everybody, whereas curly hair is not for everyone either. So you have to know which lane you fit in. But if you're a curly girl going back to relaxer, or you're a curly girl who tried it or went natural for whatever reason, and now you're like, it's not me. And then I understand that. In that case, I do understand that. And I empathize, I do. Find what works for you and own it. Whether that's relaxed hair or being curly girl. Find what works for you and own it. No one can tell you any different. But just know how to manage, how to care for it, what you need to use, what you need to do. All right? All right, y'all. I hope this helps someone. I know that this might ruffle a few feathers, and it's okay. I'm okay with that. So, all right, y'all. Until the next time, y'all, have a blessed week. Talk to y'all soon.